Prior to launch, this has to be the game I was the most anxious to pick up. On the one hand, I had the entire house to myself and multiple days off of work in a row, which was the first time either of those had ever happened together for a Kirby game. But on the other hand, this was the fourth game in the exact same style, and I was getting worried that the formula might be starting to get old. Did my anxiety wind up being right? Well, the answer is complicated. If you like complicated answers, or you just like my content and you want to help out, please subscribe. I'm really getting close to 400 subscribers. Getting there would be great, and I have a year-end goal of 600, so if you want to be one of those 600, I'd really appreciate it. Now let's talk about Star Allies. To get this out of the way, I like this game a whole lot. I love what they did with Hit Stun. I have an old video where I go over combos with every single character and every single ability, and in most cases every element, and I just feel like it adds so much to the game. It allows you to express your creativity to other people, kind of like a fighting game, and when you have other people to play with, blasting through the main stages, maybe even getting some of those combos set up, it's really fun. In this case, I definitely think the more the merrier. 4 players is the best way to go. Alone, though, story mode, it's underwhelming. I don't think it's ever as tedious as something like the Hypernova from Triple Deluxe, and underwhelming by Kirby standards can still be a fun time. In particular, I think World 4, the final area of the game, does a lot right. There's a bunch of different stage themes, there's a lot of boss fights, you can choose the order that you play all of the stages yourself, and with the different visual theming comes different level layouts and gameplay feel. I'm not enthusiastic about the first 3 worlds though. Speedrunning them can be a good time, but if you're just going through them normally, there's just nothing to say. I feel like I have more to say about the Squeak Squad levels than some of these. On a positive note though, speaking of speedrunning, I think this is the best game in the series to speedrun for a more experienced runner. Any% has a lot of micromanagement with partners, and a lot of cool skips that have been discovered with various different abilities. You don't just solo the whole thing with Wing. For the most part. And the post-game, as always with the more recent Kirby titles, does not disappoint. The Ultimate Choice is my favorite to play through in the whole game, regardless of whether or not I'm speedrunning, and Soul Melter EX is among the hardest challenges in the whole series. I think the Mage Sisters especially wind up being the hardest boss fight in the whole series, even harder than Soul Melter EX's final battle, which I won't spoil because it's very good. I made my thoughts on the visuals here pretty clear in Super Kirby Clashes video, so go check that out for my thoughts on the graphics, but to keep it brief, I love the style, and the backgrounds are gorgeous. I don't mind the 30 FPS very much, even if it is weird coming from Planet Robobot to this. I think it's a pretty minor point in the grand scheme of things, and unlike Super Kirby Clash, the 30 FPS does not bother me that much. The music is a weird topic, because while I think this has some good original tracks and remixes, I also think it's got some really generic sounding ones too. Stuff like the very first level's music is supposed to stick with you, but it never did for me. It still doesn't. So on launch, the game is pretty unimpressive, but unlike most of the other games that we're talking about, the launch of this game wasn't everything. Dream Friends were added over time to make the experience all the better. Day-to-Day, Meta Knight, and Bandanity were available at launch, with Rick, Kine, and Koo, Marks, and Gooey shortly after. Then we got Adeline and Ribbon, Dark Meta Knight, and Roach, and finally ending with Mangalore, Taranza, Susie, and the Mage Sisters. On top of those 4, the final wave of the free DLC also gave us a new mode, Heroes in Another Dimension, and Soul Melter EX for the Ultimate Choice. The second batch of Dream Friends also allowed you to save in Guest Star Allies Go, which was really nice, but it removed a bug that allowed you to play as Kirby. Sad. The added content really helped this game in the long run. The new Guest Star Allies stages made for the Dream Friends were not only a lot faster than normally going through it with the base game characters, they took advantage of the returning characters' moveset really well. The new mode, Heroes in Another Dimension, felt more like the exploration-heavy games like Dreamland 3 and 64, mixed with the style of the more action-packed games, and made for a fun item hunting quest with some stellar boss fights. And of course, as I already said, Soul Melter EX is incredible. I don't think I need to say any more on that. But the real joy here was just seeing these characters again. Look, I know it hadn't even been 2 full years since Planet Robobot, but controlling Susie in her work mech and adding elements to it to cause further mayhem to everything around her is so right. Seeing Gooey use his tongue not to eat enemies like in Dreamland 3, but to lash them like the whip ability, I love that. It's so funny. And look at these two. They're so cute. And look over here at Marks. He's gonna steal my money while I'm not looking. And speaking of stealing money, he's back. Seeing these characters rise to relevance again is so incredible. I'm really hoping that we see more of them in the future, because getting to fully play as them for the first time in most of their cases was an absolute delight and a great nod to every game they represented. I may not enjoy playing as them all equally. Again, I made a video on this subject. I stand by what I said, but I'm happy to see them all. Except for Dark Mennonite. Why are you here? I still can't help but think Star Allies could have been a little more than what it wound up being, but to me, this was the tipping point for the standard Kirby formula. Any more that are just like this, and I'm just gonna get annoyed. But this was a nice send-off to the style. The story mode is really fun with friends, and the post-game is really fun alone. And I appreciate that the game gives me both a great multiplayer time, as well as a deep, engaging single-player experience. It's not perfect, trust me, but I'm happy with the finished product. The game is well over 2 years old now, so this isn't recency bias or anything. I think this is a genuinely great game, and I enjoy it a lot.